Good day, everyone across North America. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Display Solutions of America, and I'm excited to welcome you back to another edition of our Tech Tuesday webinar series. Today's webinar, entitled Unleashing Precision, Discovering Sony's new SRG version 2.0 firmware update. In this, we'll be showcasing the new version 2.0 firmware update for our SRG A40 and SRG A12 PTZ cameras. We'll be demonstrating the new multi-person framing and face registration features that come along with the version 2.0 upgrade. As you know, these Tech Tuesday webinars have been developed so that our channel partners, end users, integrators, and consultants can stay informed and up to date on all of Sony's latest products and solutions. So just a few items of housekeeping before we begin. First of all, please submit any questions you may have for our panel by dropping them in the in-event question panel. We'll be dropping links in the chat for any references we make throughout the webinar, so make sure you check them out as needed. And finally, as with all our previous Tech Tuesday webinars, they can be viewed on Sony's YouTube channel. Joining me today will be our Business Manager for PTZ and Network Cameras, Ken Kobayashi, and Drew Buttress, the Senior Product Manager for PTZ and Network Cameras. I'll throw it over to Ken now, and my colleague Nate will join you back here for a live Q&A.
Okay, let me start talking about the latest firmware upgrade on our SRG A40, A12 AI built-in camera, version 2.0 firmware. Before going to the details, let's take a look at the feature video. Okay, let me quick recap the whole lineup of Sony PTZ cameras. We have a bunch of PTZ cameras from small POV box type camera to broadcast quality flagship PTZ cameras. Basically, we have SRG lineups and BLC lineups. BLC lineups are designed for critical content creation like broadcasting, content creation, house of worship. On the other hand, SRG cameras are designed for broad usage like corporate, education, and sometimes house of worship as well. We have a bunch of lineup, and you can see the icon, AI icon on some models, which has AI into that unit. These cameras are designed to suit for a range of applications from churches, corporate education, medical, broadcast studio to event halls. Let me quickly summarize our PTZ auto-framing cameras with AI analytics. SRG A40 and SRG A12, we introduced these cameras into market last year. These cameras have 4K 30p output, 1080p output, with 30x 30x zoom in 4K and 40x in Full HD. SRG A12 has a 20x optical zoom. Both cameras have 3G SDI, HDMI, and IP output. IP output includes RTSP, SRT, NDI-HX with optional license. And both cameras are built-in AI or framing. Let me talk about the detail about the version 2.0 firmware upgrade on SRG A40 A12. You can see the continuous evolution of automated shooting solution. We introduced SRG A40 A12 last year, which includes AI built-in auto framing. That includes skeleton detection, tracking an individual among multiple people, and automatic target subject selection, simply selectable setting. And this September, we released version 2.0, the latest firmware of SRG A40 H4, which newly added multi-person framing, face registration, quick and intuitive settings. With this firmware upgrade, we realized further PTZ auto framing performance and function, also improved usability and operability. Let me recap of SRG A40 A12 key features in terms of auto framing features. First one is once our camera detects a person in the detection zone, the camera automatically tracks the person with pan, tilt, zoom simultaneously, not just panning from left to right. In conjunction with zoom, the camera keeps a subject in an intended frame, even though wherever that person comes closer or goes away from the camera. Second one is consistently track a person regardless of posture, movement, and what one is wearing. And the third one is naturally frame a person for comfortable viewing based on Sony's unique imaging technology. This is a summary of version 2.0 new features. First one is multi-person framing. Second one is face registration. And third one is improved operability. Let me explain one by one. The first one is multi-person group framing mode. You can see the icon from 1 to 8. This is the number of subject to track. So once our camera pick up primary subject, main subject, then sub-subject will be picked up based on the distance from main subject up to the number of people we intend. So this case, we select 4 people as a target, as a subject to track. So our camera will keep 4 of them in the frame wherever they go. Even though they come closer, the camera will zoom in. Then when they go apart, camera will zoom out to keep 4 of them in the frame. So this function is really useful, especially for the application where there are multiple people on the stage, like group presentation, the panel speaker, and acting, dancing, and even in the situation of a wedding, the camera can keep a bride and groom in the frame. Next one is face registration. Once camera capture a person in the frame, we can store that person's face up to 40 into the camera. Once the camera capture someone's face, we can register that face. And also, we can put a priority onto each person. So if I'm priority 10 and there is other one who is priority 1, even though camera is tracking on me, but as soon as the person is in the come to the detection zone, camera will switch from me to him because he's higher priority person than me. So this function is also useful for education situation. We can set the camera to track only on the registered face. So with this function, even though there are multiple students and TAs around the podium, they will not be picked up by the camera. But as soon as the teacher shows up, who is registered by the camera, he or she will be picked up instantly by the camera. So this is really useful. And also, this function can be used to pick up some priority members among a group. Other than adding 2 cool features, we improved operability. With version 1.0, we had 3 angles, 3 framing mode, and some adjustable compositions. We could select, for example, full body, waist up, close up, and we can adjust the size, body size, and head clearance, left or right justification. But with this firmware upgrade, we will have a final adjustable composition with integrated UI. So we can freely change the size, positions of the frame. And also with version 2.0, we added the IR remote commander update. We can assign the PTZ on and off, and the function key can be assignable. We can change the framing size positions by hitting one button, so it is easy to operate. And also, we improved framing performance, detection, identification accuracy we improved. And also, framing quality improved. For example, with this firmware upgrade, our camera can detect even under low light condition, even though a subject is far from the camera. And also, the camera can pick up intended subject even he or she is in a crowd. And also, the framing quality is really important. Unfortunately, there are some cameras in the market which react too sharply to unnecessary small movements. For example, when the presenter rocks left to right a little bit, some cameras follows that small movement and people get seasick. But our camera had better stabilization towards such small movement with this firmware upgrade. So much comfortable framing will be available. Also, the framing against fast up and down movement, fast left and right movement improved. Okay, this is all for my presentation. So let's take a look at a live demonstration. Thank you.
Today, I want to show you the coolest new features of SRG A40 A12 camera version 2.0. Let me briefly touch upon the new features added to the web GUI. Now you can see the number of subjects on the web GUI. We can change from one subject to up to 8 people in the same frame. So let me run with a single person framing mode first. Now, camera is running with a single person framing mode. As soon as I show up in the detection zone, camera recognized me as an intended subject. So, and start keep following me from left to right, even though I'm walking, ducking, camera keeps following on me. Then, let me explain the new features added. With this version 2.0 upgrade, we added a multi-person framing mode. We can select from 1 to 8 subjects in the frame. Now I set it to 3. So let me explain one by one. Even though I set it to 3 people framing mode, as long as there is only one person in the frame, camera reacts like a single person framing mode. So camera keeps following me. But as soon as second person shows up in the frame, camera will switch to 2 people framing mode. So Nate, could you show up? Thank you. Now, there are 2 people in the frame. So as long as we come closer, go apart, cameras try to zoom in and out to keep 2 of us in the frame. So let us welcome our third guest. Joe, could you show up? Now camera switch to 3 people framing mode. So as long as we come closer, go apart, wherever we go, camera keeps 3 of us in the frame. Okay, once I'm framed out, camera will instantly repositioning, then start 2 people framing mode. So camera keeps tracking 2 of them. So Joe, could you leave from the frame? Then camera will return to the home position instantly, then pick up Nate as an intended subject. This is the cool feature of multi-person framing mode. Okay, let me explain second new feature added to firmware version 2.0. This is face registration. In the web GUI detection setting, there are registered face tracking parameter. So once we activate that feature, camera now picking up only person who registered into the frame, into the camera. So this is face registration tab. There is no person registered in the frame at this moment. So let us start PTZ framing. Now camera recognizes 2 of them, but never picks them up because there is there is no one who registered in the camera. Okay, let us register Nate's face. Once we capture through the camera, we can pick up who to register. Now, I register Nate. Then start out-framing again. Now camera recognizes Nate as the intended subject to follow. So Joe was actually recognized by the camera, but only Nate was picked up. Could you go back to the original position? Okay, once I delete Nate from the camera, there's no person registered now. Then if I go back to old framing again, camera recognizes them but never picks them up. Okay, let me explain another cool improvement on the web GUI. Okay, let us start our framing. Now, camera is picking up Joe. So, Joe, could you move left to right? With this firmware upgrade, we improved the web GUI operability. We can adjust the framing even during the old framing. We can freely adjust framing on the web GUI. Could you move around? So we can intuitively adjust the framing as intended. From tight shot to wide shot, from left justification to right justification. So with this new firmware upgrade, we can improve the operability a lot. Now, let's go back to Q&A session.
Thanks, Ken. Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Corville, marketing specialist here at Sony. Before we get into our Q&A, just a quick reminder to everybody that throughout the show, there's been some links that you can reference and use as needed, as well as our YouTube series to watch this playback later when it goes up and live. All right. So to start jumping into these questions, Drew, we'll start with you. We had a question from Richard here. Can this camera operate and track without registering the pictures?
Oh, absolutely. The advantage to the pre-registration of faces is not only to set the priority, but let's say it's a classroom environment. You might want to have the professor using the room be pre-registered so that we're not falsely tracking a student that might have crossed through the detection zone as they entered the room. But if we don't have registration turned on, it operates just exactly the way Ken was demonstrating, where there's a detection zone, we detect a face. We don't need to continue to see the face to track them. We're really tracking on things like shape and size of the person, their skeletal features, as well as like color or pattern to whatever clothing they're wearing. So to answer the question, it'll work great with single person, or if you've set it up for multi-person without the registration.
Great. Thank you, Drew. All right, and we'll jump into this next one here for Ken. Jeff Hubert asked, Creston Control API with version 2.0 updates. Is that compatible?
Yep, that's compatible. And as we provided the link to the chat, we open our API on the website, and you can download it for free. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Ken, for that. And then next we have from Joey, is this available on an upgrade to older cameras? I'll let pass this over to Drew.
Currently, no. This upgrade was really only applicable to the SRG A series, so the SRG A40 and the SRG A12. There will be auto framing, a firmware update to the ILME FR7 that's coming sometime next spring, and that'll bring the auto framing to that model. And then we announced our new BRC AM7 back at NAB timing. And as of right now, it won't do multi-person tracking. What we're expecting is there'll be an update to that model in the spring that would then add the features that we're talking about in this session.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, and then we'll jump over to our next question here from Zach. Is there any plan to add a pre-registration picture upload versus camera capture for high-value CEO types that don't have the 3 seconds it takes to get them to pause for the registration? A little one of little one take
Yeah,
that one.
that one is pretty easy. As of right now, no. You have to register the face by using the camera and through the web UI. Again, you think of a higher ed situation. Well, these 7 professors are going to use this one single room. They could all be pre-registered before classes begin. In the case of the CEO, sweet talk them, say, I just need you for 3 seconds. Take the thing and then go on up there and do your presentation. As of right now, no. We've had this question, and it's great feedback to our engineering team in Japan. The ability to upload photos from, say, people's photo IDs. But as of right now, we can't do that. It's all strictly done through the interface with the camera.
All right. Thank you for that, Drew. And then jumping over to the next question here from Prosper. Can it be set to track active audio inputs, as in microphones turned on or off?
Sony does not have that sort of integrated system. We did partner with a company called Nariva, and with Nariva, they can detect which microphone has the strongest signal, and then through an InnoGenie switcher, they can command which camera in that room to switch the video to. But as of right now, Sony doesn't offer a product like that.
All right. Thank you there, Drew. And then a follow-up question about the CEO from Ben. Can you register the CEO while they are talking?
Yeah, you can do. As I demonstrated during the live demo session. Once someone can operate the web GUI to capture the live stream, then I'll pick up CEO's face during his speech.
All right. Thank you there, Ken. And then we'll jump over to this next one here for Magnus. Regarding GDPR, is the picture only stored on the camera? Also, is there an API to take the image via Crestron command?
Well, okay, so let's answer that one. The images, the people's faces that have been registered, they're only stored on the camera. They never get transmitted outside of the camera. There are commands to delete the image. As far as integrating with Crestron, as Ken was demonstrating the web GUI. So we have two kinds of command protocols. One is called VSCA over IP, and right now VSCA over IP only added in auto framing on and off. Going a step further, though, we have a complete library of what we call CGI commands. And going back to Ken's demo of the web UI, everything that he clicked on, there is a CGI command behind it. So if you are knowledgeable with Crestron on how they can do a digest authentication HTTP type of command, that's really our CGI library, you would be able to program the ability to delete a photo or an image off the camera. You'd also have the ability to do the on-the-fly adjustments, but that's all going to be programmed into your control system, and then have those buttons be put on the touch screen.
All right. Thank you there, Drew. And continuing on from Reynaldo, you have two types of auto framing, question mark, person and zone.
Yeah, actually, our PTZ framing is the presenter tracking, but when running with the multi-person framing mode, it's almost like a zone, framing because the camera will not stick to a person. I mean, cameras tries to intended number of subject in the frame, and if there are enough space to move around, the camera can cover whole the area wherever these two subjects moving around. So it's the picture is almost like a zone tracking.
Right.
Actually, we don't have a dedicated zone tracking mode.
Thank you for the clarification there, Ken. Appreciate that. And then now, another question here from Ben. If you are using multi camera, will the tracking roll over to all cameras or do you have to register on each camera?
You there is no camera to camera communication. So the direct answer is you would have to set up each camera for whichever auto framing mode you wanted. You could actually set them up with different faces so that, camera one may be tracking that CEO, he's priority one, but maybe somebody else who's part of the presentation on camera two, they could be priority one. And that way those two cameras would be tracking separate subjects based on priority.
All right. We appreciate that there, Drew. And then keep going down the line here. Magnus, let's see. Is it possible to set no tracking zones over the projector screens to prevent tracking of objects on the screen / projector in larger auditoriums?
I'll take that one, Ken. We do not have masking zones or masked zones per se. That's a great question. It comes up fairly often about, well, what happens if the camera is pointing and we have a projected screen in an image or even a large flat panel display. The key is really defining your detection zone during the setup process to be not picking up. The initial scene might show you the flat panel or the projected screen, but the detection zone, you make that rather finite to one side or the other. And what happens is once we start tracking the person, we are locked onto that person. And even though they can walk in front of faces, like say during a Zoom call or a Teams call, we don't jump to faces on a screen. We stay with the person who's actually moving.
And also we have pound limit function, and we can stay away from for example the displays on the left side of the the frame. We can limit the pan range to the right side of the display, so the camera will not follow even though the subject is walking toward the display. Camera will stop before reaching to that display or something like that. The combination of detection zone and pan limit function can work the similar as the mask functions.
Right. Thank you both there for the information. Next question we have is from Scott. Will MJPEG streaming ever be officially supported? We currently use that format with these cameras, but worry it might disappear with the future firmware updates.
Well, I mean the streaming formats that we currently support are RTSP, RTMPS, SRT, and we have the option of enabling NDI-HX.
So all good options there. Continuing on from Reynaldo, do you always need a web? Others do it via remote control. So
Well, so the answer to that is really no, but you do need to get into the camera's web UI to set all the initial auto framing parameters. There's, I don't know, 4 or 5 setup screens. The very first one is how many subjects do you want to track. The second one is your starting shot. This is what we'll call the home position. Third screen is defining that detection zone, and then there are some other parameters on some additional screens. Once that is set up and you hit, you know, um, one of the buttons is for auto detection. The other button, another button on there would be for auto start. So even if that room were to lose power, as soon as power is restored, the camera will boot itself up and go right into the detection mode, if you will. Um, so you could actually be disconnected from the web UI. You could use an external controller like our RMIP 500 to manually move the camera. And if you've got an RMIP 500 that's at version 2.3 or higher, you can actually define one of those software assignable buttons to just give you auto framing on and off. Because like I say, if auto framing is working and then you touch the joystick, you've just shut off auto framing and kind of gone into manual mode. But if you've defined that one of those software assign buttons, press that, boom, you're back into auto framing mode.
Perfect. Thanks there, Drew. All right, Ken, this one looks like it's going to be for you. I got two questions actually from Donald. The first one, detection zone is just defined by a box on the web interface, correct?
Correct. And as Drew mentioned before, if the integrator use the CGI command, we can actually show the same screen on the touch panel. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. And then the second question from Donald is, did you show us how to limit the range when a display is to the one side of the presenter?
Yeah, actually, the power limit menu is on the web GUI to input a certain amount of degree that camera can pan. For example, 70 degree or 15 degrees to the left or right. So we can't actually see visually where's the limit range. We need to check how actually camera move from left to right with that the set of the pan limit angle. So
Right, thank you for that, Ken. All right, next question here from Brandon. Are all these tracking features available through the API so control set systems can modify settings?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the CGI library. If you want more information on that, if you go to sony.com/PTZ, click on standard cameras, you'll find the SRG A40 and A12. Click on either of those two models, hit the resources button, you'll be taken to a place where you can find the manuals, and we have the VISCA and CGI command guide along with the operating instructions. So there's two real valuable version 2 manuals currently on our global website.
Lovely. And as we mentioned before, those links should be referenced throughout the webinar, so those will be available to you to access. And now, jump into the next question we have here from Joey. He asks, is it controllable via NDI tools?
So I've demonstrated NDI using NDI Studio Monitor, and I can manually control, the pan left and right, tilt up and down, zoom in and out. I do not believe NDI has put any sort of control to say turn auto framing on and off. We do ship the camera with an infrared remote, and there is an auto framing on off button as well as a function button so that you can go and actually, with the IR remote, do some of those framing updates on the fly. But I'm not aware that VizRT has done anything to add to their NDI tools to handle Sony PTZ auto framing cameras, let alone anybody else's. So I don't have a better answer than that, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Thank you nonetheless there, Drew. And then we'll go to the next question here from Scott. Can we remotely upload headshots, or can they only be captured with the camera itself?
Yeah, just with the camera. As of right now, we don't have a way to upload headshots, like a file transfer. It's all done kind of manually, but through the web interface when you're connected to the camera.
Thank you there. And then an interesting question here. Do we have any trade-in programs? Currently 100 plus Sony SRG X400s, and we're very happy with the cameras, but we need tracking in many of them.
yeah, really good question, and we are happy to have. Please reach out to Sony account manager or integrator that installed our cameras. We are happy to discuss on that program. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you,
If I can add to that, we do offer the REA C1000, which is our AI-based video analytics box, and that can connect to any of those SRG X series cameras that don't have built-in tracking. And we've added the auto framing feature. Now it's not at 2.0 like what we've just been discussing, but it would at least bring in single person auto framing to those cameras that don't have the AI built in.
Great point there, Drew. Thank you for that. Let's see here. Next question. We have one from Donald. Back to the CEO. If the CEO's priority number one for framing, can you program the remote IR button to select home positioning and stop tracking?
Yes. Yep.
Lovely. Thank you. All right. Next, let's see. So from Magnus, for MJPEG streaming is needed for preview stream on Crestron. Currently, there's too much delay to control the camera manually on the Crestron screen. More of a statement than a question.
Yeah, that's a good point. As of right now, we don't have motion JPEG streaming functions, but let us feedback to the Japan engineers. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you there, Ken. And then next from Bobby, is there a way to stop the tracking when the subject goes outside of the boundary?
Absolutely. So, Ken's already touched on pan limits. But one of the setup screens I was talking about, it has a what we call wait time. And so if we're tracking a person and they leave the room or they leave the set frame that you've defined, for that home shot with the pan tilt limits, that timeout will occur, and we go back to the original home shot, and we're back in detect mode.
All right. Appreciate that. And I think we got a few more questions left. Next one here from Zachary. Is there any plan to add functionality for these AI features to be available via the RM IP500? My workflow doesn't always allow for a web interface and would help control both non-AI and AI cameras on a single controller. I know we might have mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, because the RMIP 500 is sending only Visca over IP commands, then with a auto framing camera, you're going to be limited to on off. Like I said, with that software assignable button, but you would certainly be able to manually operate the cameras. Like if you're doing a production shoot and you're not necessarily needing to do auto framing, you certainly can have that happen. A lot of people are doing that now, where they'll have a presenter camera, but they'll have other cameras, and then through a video switcher, they're basically creating the production, live. But the SRG A40 is strictly going to be used for that presenter tracking. But yeah, the answer is yes, certainly.
Wonderful. Thank you there, Drew. All right. Here we go. One from Scott here. Can we remotely pause registered headshots, i.e. a registered professor attends an event and starts to get tracked even though they are not a desired tracking target in the situation?
Ken, you can correct me on this one. I'm pretty sure not with the IR remote, but if you go into the web UI, you can turn off. I think there's a button that says use facial registration. So if I disable it, then I'm just going to be auto framing, as if we had no facial registration or faces stored on the camera.
Yeah, and we need to test, but first we touch other a person's face on the web GUI. The first we switch the tracking subject might work, even though running with face registration mode. So yeah, maybe there will be two ways: stop registered face tracking mode, or first we choose another person on the web GUI.
All right. Thank you. And then, and just some clarification from Scott. He said, rather pause specific headshots, not all the headshots. And then, all right. So next from Richard here. Regarding registration, how can we ensure that someone will be tracked on stage prior to their arrival if the event or presentation will be their first time on stage?
Well, I think if you've got them on camera, I think what you saw in the demonstration, whether it was Nate, Joe, and Ken together, or just one person, you saw on the web UI how the person's face had a green outline box, and if let's just say we had three people up there, but we're only doing single person tracking, the two people who aren't being tracked would still have a gray outline box around their face. And as Ken said, if you're logged into the web UI, you can go click on one of those other faces, and now we changed our tracking algorithm to now follow that person. So I'm not so going back to the question now. In the web UI, you click on that face, and then you would just say register. You know, you've got to be in the screen to do the actual registration. But you could do it without pre-registration, if you will. You just have to kind of grab that person, save them, and then set their priority accordingly.
All righty. All right. So thank you, Drew, for that. That'll be our last question right there. We capture all the questions that come in. So we'll have a Sony rep follow up through email in the next couple of days. So all questions that haven't been answered will be answered within a reasonable amount of time. Thank you guys for submitting all the questions. They were great. Now I'm going to pass it back over to John, and he'll wrap us up today. Thank you, guys.
So thank you for joining us today. Please note, Sony has just kicked off our series of AV Tech Expos where these amazing cameras, along with our entire lineup of pro solutions, will be shown. Next stop on the tour will be New York City in October at Sony's corporate headquarters on Madison Avenue. Please visit pro.sony/AVTechExpo for more details and to register. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.